It's exciting to be here today, and thank you guys for coming along. It's going to be a little bit interactive today, so I'm going to get you out of your seats. Please don't run away. So I'm here to talk about how you can create a better business for your future. And so I'm hoping today that you'll get real ideas to take home with you, not just theory. And that's why we're going to do a little bit of interactive stuff as well. But just before that, I'd like to step back in time and just talk a little bit about how we got to where we are today. So we all know we had COVID, and what happened with COVID generally around the world was that people changed their values. I certainly changed mine. People wanted more time, more flexibility, and they wanted to spend their time different ways. We had people wanting to have more purpose in their life, both in business and in their normal everyday life. Then we had a bunch of support packages, and those support packages gave us money, and that was exciting. And people liked that. And for some people, it was not enough. For some people, it allowed them to survive. And for others, they just had money in the bank. What that led to a little bit later was when things opened up, lots of spending. And that spending, along with floods and war and some other things, caused us to have inflation. And then everybody wanted more money. So we started off wanting more time. And now we're in a position where people want more money. Now, that's a real challenge for businesses, because human nature is that we don't really give things up. So we don't want to give up the money that we got. We don't want to give up the time. And I think a lot of businesses are expecting that at some point, if there's a recession, that people will want to give these things up. And it will come to an equilibrium, but it's going to take some time for that to happen. And it's important to remember that many things have changed in the environment around us. The expectation of safety, the expectation around what is good, the expectation around how businesses treat their staff with empathy, and there's been a few things on today around new regulation and things like that as well. So these things all play a part in your business, and they certainly don't make it easier. Now, I'm not sure if you know who this guy is. He's Simon Sinek. He is a psychologist, and he works with really big businesses, and he works on culture and really how to manage your business in a way that is very effective by utilizing the people in your business. And he says, if you want to get better at business, you've got to get better at people. So if you want to get better at your business, you've got to get better at people. And I was really excited to see this because back in 2012, something like that, I worked together with another group to create a framework. And it was a framework that was steeped in psychology and business and finance and operations, but we weren't psychologists. And so when I saw this come out in his book in 2019, about 7 years later, I was really excited because it just validated that what we've been doing is something that is very powerful, and we've seen it work, but that it actually does work. So if getting better at business means getting better at people, don't trust your accountant. So your accountant's trained to optimize for profit, cash flow, things like that, not for people. Now, I know this because I am an accountant. And I've been an accountant for more than 25 years. And in the first 10 years, I was optimizing for profit. And it doesn't really work. Yes, if you focus on something really hard in your business, it can really happen. So people did make more profit. But I was working with clients, and there were other challenges that were coming up all the time. In fact, my dad is a tradie, and he had businesses. And the main reason that I got into finance and accounting was to support him, because he never got enough support and he could never get ahead in his business. And I wanted to help him to make better business decisions. But when I focused on the numbers, which is all I knew at that time because that's all I was trained, I found that, yes, we got some improvement in profit, but we had other issues. We had lots of challenges with cash flow, with staff turnover, with staff not making good decisions because they didn't understand the strategy of the business or where to go in the business. We had issues with customer complaints. And I noticed that when we optimize for profit and these things, these other issues come up. And so I knew there was something else out there that had to work better. And I went looking for it. And I sort of did a lot of corporate jobs, traveled around the world. And eventually I came across a guy by the name of Adrian Travis that I did some work with. And he and I started a consulting firm together. And we started doing work with major global brands. And over about 10 years, we refined a methodology that was actually optimizing for people, primarily customers. And then when we built that framework, we found that not only did you get more profit, you also got more customers. They were happier. You had less staff turnover. And ultimately, the staff could understand easily what you're trying to achieve with the customer, and therefore they made better decisions. And we implemented this over a number of years, and I continue to implement it with big businesses, with small businesses. It's delivered over more than 3,599 changes and over $71 million in profit. For the businesses in your sector, so the service sector and construction and cleaning, we get an average of 229% improvement in profit, which is pretty phenomenal. Usually in about 9 months. That's like going from a $2 million business to a $5 million business in 9 months, and without a lot of the headaches that you have when you're focusing on the numbers. So you've all heard it before, there's no silver bullet. Actually, there is a silver bullet, and it's in your business right now. What if I told you that you could leverage the power already in your business? What if I told you that you already have a room full of geniuses ready to solve problems in your business? That every single person in your business could be focusing on your key goals and help you achieve that. I think one of the things that we also forget is that all of these people in our business are frontline customer focused, or many of them. And so they are actually generating the sales for our business as well through referrals and other things. So again, going back to, if you want to get better at business, you've got to get better at people. What we've done is created a framework that helps you do that. It's a how-to, so it's not just a theoretical idea. And I'm going to walk you through that framework today. So there's 4 components to the framework. But we're not going to focus on the strategy today, just because it's vitally important. If you implement these other 3 things and you don't have a clear strategy, you'll get results really quickly and they'll be heading in the wrong direction. So it is vitally important. We just don't have time to go through that today. It's a massive topic. But we'll talk about ultimate customer value KPI. We're going to talk about visual scorecards and active management. So the first one is the KPI. Now, KPI is just a fancy word for saying, things that matter. Measure the things that matter. And we have are 4 very specific things to measure. So one is cost, one is speed, one is quality, and one is service. And the reason that we measure these is because they're actually the subconscious analytical decisions that people are making in their minds whenever they buy something. These are the things that we weigh up subconsciously. Yes, there's an emotional attachment to things that we buy as well, but if you ignore the emotional side, this is the analytics that go through. And so what we want to do is we want to measure the value that we're providing to our customers from within our business. And what we also find is that the research shows that customers don't buy based on price, they buy based on value. So if we can focus on the value that we provide to our customers, then it gives us a clear idea of exactly what we're providing and whether or not we think they're achieving their goals. Once we understand what we're delivering, we can make adjustments. And what happens once we understand this is that we have better information to make better decisions. We have an early warning system because we've got our own metrics that we're measuring to understand where things are going wrong. I don't know if you've had any customers call you up lately to say, great job. Or even to say, oh, someone left, a piece of rubbish on the floor that wasn't collected. Usually when they call, they're about to leave. Right? So, and that's nature. I mean, I don't call up the phone company and tell them that my phone worked well today. Right? It's just not what we do. So it gives us an early warning system. When we see our KPI running in the wrong direction, we can understand that we need to make a change. Or in the right direction, we can do more of it. And it also creates staff buy-in. The staff are going to be much more likely to buy into a reduction in cost because it's going to serve the customer better than a reduction in cost because they think that you're going to buy a new BMW or something else, right? It's a much better story. You need to be genuine, but it's a much better story when you can bring it back to the customer journey. I'm going to run through an example of the difference between perhaps a traditional metric and the customer value KPI set. So here we have two people. We got Bob and we got John. And Bob has done $100,000 worth of sales last month, and John has done $85,000. Looking at just this, I think many of us would say Bob is doing better than John, and if I needed another salesperson, I would need another Bob. Or if I was going to incentivize someone, I would be incentivizing Bob. Yeah. When we bring in the cost, service, speed, and quality, things look a little bit different. So here we can see that Bob worked 50 hours, but John only worked 40. So in actual fact, John made more sales dollars per hour than Bob. So John was actually a little bit more effective. We can also see that repeat sales were up for John. His days to complete were faster, and he has less cancellations. So I would now be wondering, is it really Bob that's the superstar? I'd also be wondering, I wonder if when I look at this speed and see the big gap, I wonder if we can support Bob better to improve his speed. I wonder if he was faster and could be faster, could he work less hours or could he do more sales in the 50 hours? I wonder whether or not he would have more repeat buyers if we were faster as well. So it gives us a whole set of different things to look at in a really simple way to be able to reassess the situation. We're here in Melbourne. I know you love your footy. So who's winning in this fictitious game of AFL? Can anyone tell me? Imagine if every AFL game didn't have a score. Or if you couldn't see the score. Or if you didn't find out till the end of the game. I wonder how many people would lose motivation to watch or even play. I wonder what would happen to teamwork. I wonder what would happen to celebrating victories and trying to break records and trying to win. I think all of these things are going to be severely detrimental. Once you have a score, it's much easier to see. And people love to know how they're doing. And people love to strive towards something. So I'm not going to do the first rows. I should have known that people won't sit in the first row, but I want to do something interactive now. So I'd like to, because we don't have enough in each row, I'd like to group a couple of people together. So Alec, great. If you could go back a couple of rows to where we've got the other two here, and then Paul, maybe if you jump into that row as well. And then we have, just I'll get one of each. We have 3 in a row here. I'm wondering if you, sir, could jump into that row. Would you mind just for a moment? And we're just going to hand out one card. Now, we need a leader and a timekeeper for each of the rows. Yeah, just one card to one person, please. Just one card to... Oh, if there's another row that wants to participate, which sort of with 4 people, that would be great. So we're going to have so one person needs to keep time. And what I'd like you to do, when you're ready, it's going to be quick, but I'd like you to do is take that card and make sure that each person touches it one time. But before you do it, I want someone to time it. So all 4 of you, please, could you start so all 4? Want all 4 people touching it, and one person recording the time. Ready, set, go.
Shot. Yeah.
Okay. How do we go for time over here, roughly?
Oh. Yeah. 3 seconds.
3 seconds, great. How do we go over here? 2 seconds. Okay, great. Now, if I was to tell you that I did this with my bunch of school kids in my kids' 5-year-old class, and they did it in less than a second, how would you do it differently?
Okay, can you do it
Okay, let's have a go.
all together? Teamwork, ready?
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. There we look at that. So what happened? What happened once we put a score in there?
Yeah.
We're more competitive. We wanted to beat everyone else's time
And you had
and be the fastest.
a problem to solve, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So this is human nature, actually. And, funnily enough, we love to do it. And we get purpose from it. And we all know that our staff more and more are asking for purpose. So that's it for that exercise. Thank you, participants. The other thing that a visual scorecard does is it makes sense of the data. I mean, apart from me being an accountant, who wants to read this report? That's what I thought. It's even hard for me, to be honest. But once you put it into a graphical depiction like this, it's so much easier to see exactly what's happening. So you can see that the red is below target and the green is above. What does it mean? Well, we don't know that yet, right? We just know that it happened. So what do you get from that? So from implementing the ultimate customer value KPI and scorecards, some of the things you get from that are customer happiness, better decisions because staff understand what they're trying to achieve, improved business performance, and usually a little bit of improvement in the business profit. And we see people doing this, getting about 20% increase in profit, which is pretty phenomenal. But it's the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that can be done. So it's great that we have some information, but without taking any action, we're not going to get maximum value from that. And we just saw that this group here just took action to improve their metric when they were touching the card, right? So you need that action. And there's 3 types of management, and we promote active management. There's micromanagement. I'm sure we don't have any micromanagers here. That's the person that breathes down your neck and tells you exactly how to do A, B, and C. And, it really creates a lack of trust, and it's very intrusive. We also have absent management. Maybe some of you are that today and yesterday while you were here, and staff members are trying to get hold of you while you're in the session, for example. But you have absent management where you're not there to support people, and it's frustrating as well. And we assume that everyone knows what they're doing and they can just go and do it. And that may be true, but of course, when we employ someone new to our business, they come with their history, the things they learned from some other business. And those things might not be the same things you want in your business. So to assume that everyone can do their job without any support is probably a bit of a risk. And then finally, we have active management. And active management is a way of being supportive, but providing goals, making sure that we have expectations. And funnily enough, this is what most of us who have children try to do with our children. And yet, as adults, we sort of forget about it. It works really well because it releases people from the burden of having to check over them all the time. It allows the staff to be supported, but in a way that they a little bit have more of their own terms and their own leeway. So we have an active management approach, which takes into account the things we talked about: a scorecard, a short meeting to discuss where it's at, trying to find solutions, as we did a minute ago. And what that usually means is there's less stress, not just to management, but across the entire business, because people are communicating and identifying and solving problems. And the way that we put it together is we have a short meeting, which is usually 10 to 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be face-to-face. It can be in any way that you like, really. But what you're doing is you have some meeting agreements around that. What's going to be in there? Are you going to celebrate birthdays? Are you going to, whatever. It doesn't have to be all professional. We have the scorecard, which we just looked at. And then you have an action log. And that's really critical. And the key component to an action log in this sort of situation is that you have an opportunity to pass actions back to your staff. So you don't have to solve. The management team, the owner doesn't have to solve everything. They can just focus on the things that are going to affect the overall business. And they can ask the staff to take ownership of some of the ideas that they come up with. And the beauty of that is that it creates purpose. It also, as you can imagine, if I'm a staff member and I have an idea and I want it to be implemented, and we say, would you like to run with that? And would you like to be in charge of that? And they say yes. You can imagine it's far more likely to be successful than if you come in there and say, I want you to do this. It's my idea and it's going to work. Right? And so I talked earlier about having a room full of geniuses. And there's the old saying, 2 heads are better than one. Well, why not 5 or 10 or 50 or 100? Right? So the idea here is to then generate those ideas and give them the power back to actually run with them. The reason you want to have an action log and not just a bunch of good ideas is because as your business grows, or if you're in a large business, you may have one idea that's going to affect everybody. Or you may have an idea that's not aligned with your values or your strategy. Or you may have an idea that's going to cost a lot of money and it needs to be managed very, very carefully. So the idea here is that you can see, and you can also then identify different teams generating different ideas or similar ideas. Are there other opportunities that are coming from other teams that can be applied to different teams? So having it formalized makes it a much stronger proposition for improving the business. So just sort of a quick recap, I guess. We're talking about very short catch-ups. It's not really, don't need a lot of fluff in there. What's working, what's not, what are some of the ideas people have, and then getting them into actions. And an action could be to investigate the idea as the first point. So once you put this in place, you get additional benefits from the other pieces. You end up with your staff having more purpose and engagement. You end up with ownership and accountability being driven through the business. You end up with a cultural shift in the business that's focused on your goals. And you end up with innovation, new ideas. We all think of innovation as the next Uber or the next Airbnb, but the reality is that many innovations come from incremental small changes over time. And from this, you'll get lots of small ideas, and perhaps it'll turn into one big idea. But these items of innovation, these are the things that give you back time. These are the things that are going to find better ways to do things with your customers. And there's a place for technology, but technology doesn't solve everything, and it's not going to solve it all right now. So I'd like to do one more interactive session, this time with everybody. I'd like people to get into small groups, maybe 4 in a group. We have a couple rows already in 4. So if others wouldn't mind, are you keen? Are you keen? just to get into a group of 4, and we're going to solve a problem, which hopefully is a problem that people see. And again, we need a leader from the group, and that leader, I'd like them to give us the most effective answer and the most innovative answer. So here's the problem. Had a period of high growth. You're working 5 24-hour shifts, or 7, or whatever it was I heard over here earlier from someone. And the new staff are struggling, and we've got a shortage of experienced staff. Perhaps they're away, perhaps they're sick, perhaps it's just because we've employed a lot of new staff to keep up with demand. And the cleaning times are blowing out, and we're having quality issues. Now, we're a business, and some of the experienced staff are going to be coming back from sickness and from holiday. So we have a short-term issue here that needs to be resolved really quickly. We've got a week to resolve it, and we've only got $5,000 to spend. So I'd like to give you 2 or 3 minutes to think about a few ideas, and I think the leader should encourage that each person comes up with at least one idea, and then afterwards we'd like to see what they think is the idea that's going to work the most, and we'll see which idea we think is the most innovative.
Oh, and I have it. It's out. I see this.
Do you want to do the microphone to this side?
Oh,
And
sure.
I'll do the microphone.
Yeah, that breathe.
If you want to turn off, that the electric there, you slide down.
I said, won't damage
If
anything.
you want it on, push it up,
Oh.
and you'll see the light come out. Okay?
So, yeah, an investor, we can to appreciate it.
Give you 2 more minutes.
That what makes
1 more minute.
why my reader is.
Okay, we'll call time. It's great to see everyone in deep discussion. It's fantastic. But I'm only allotted a certain amount of time here, so... Okay, so yeah, let's get started. So maybe we start at the back there, Leanne, with the most, what we think is the most appropriate or the most likely solution, and whether we had any really interesting, innovative ideas.
Our most likely or easiest one to implement is staff bonuses for time, making the times. So set the time limit, check on them, bonuses if they can complete all the work in the given time.
Okay, great. What about the most innovative?
Our most innovative was using all $5,000 to automate our systems and eliminate need for staff.
Right. Do you think you can do that in a week?
No, but a big wishful thinking.
Okay, good. Thank you. We might go to the back group over here.
Hold it, Cliff.
We had 2 suggestions: put an extra staff on each cleaning time, or each shift, to help out, cut the time down, and then they got more time to work on specific areas. And if that didn't work, then maybe, buy technology like a scrubbing machine or whatever to help with quality and time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Why? But it's
We had a few ideas. One of them was engaging management to step up and fill in the gap. Cost effective, and it shows the team that management are willing to help and, get in the tools during tough times. So it's a kind of cultural message and also a financial saving. And to engage agencies to fill the short-term gap, just for the short term.
Great.
And
Great.
one more, non-urgent jobs or things that can, be postponed.
Reprioritize. Right. Okay, and the last group here.
The girls get that case.
Checklists, definitely. If we can get old staff to come back for the week, if they're available. If we can train the new staff, in that first week.
Or, yeah,
So just completing audits after the cleaning's been done, and then in terms of training, so working with them, making sure they understand the requirements of the role.
Great. I guess the bigger question is, through that exercise, did people hear ideas they hadn't thought of? Did people get a different perspective? And I think there's other things you could think about too. Can we talk to the clients and say, hey, we're having this problem? Are there things we can dial back on? We talked about staff training, talked about technology, talked about bringing in management teams. Lots of ideas there. So it's really fantastic. And I think that's the point that I wanted to get across, is that when you engage with your people in this way, they also get to have those conversations, and they also feel a sense of purpose. They feel like they're there as part of the business, and they're solving the business. And we know there's lots of things going on with labour laws and all sorts of other things. This actually is going to help with those things. So I just want to let people know that I've come down from Sydney today, and I don't want to waste the day. So if you have any questions for me, you can ask them now, but also I will be running some sessions over at the ISSA piece there for 15 minutes, and you're welcome to book a session today. And I've also got an Expo special, which doesn't have to happen today, but if you book in by the end of the month, you'll get a bunch of bonuses worth about $1,500. Of course, you don't have to do anything. You can just book and get a great strategy and then say, I don't want to do it. That's fine. So just to let you know. And any questions for now? No. Sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll fire a couple at you that may help the audience, okay? What's the biggest challenge for business to implement something like this?
The biggest challenge I find is actually the management team and the business owners. So often I think they feel that if I start to measure staff and have these conversations, that staff won't like it, or they won't have time for it. They feel that they're going to lose their friendship or something along those lines. And the opposite is actually true, because what typically happens now is, as a staff member, from their perspective, I get called into a meeting to get told that we're not doing a good enough quality job, do better. So we go and spend more time to do better. And then I get called in, hey, you're taking too long on the job site. Speed up. Oh, okay. Now I've got to speed up, right? This is the typical cycle of information that happens in a business. Whereas when you implement this, they know exactly what they're aiming for. And when you have that same conversation that says, we've got complaints about quality, we're not spending enough time at the site, people are going to say, well, no, we spend the same amount of time. Well, what's causing the problem? Or we can spend more time, but that's going to go into the cost bucket. Do you understand that? And, maybe the management team are happy with that. Yes, I understand that. Let's do it for 1 week and see how it goes. It changes the conversation.
All right. These people here have got the screen up there for you to look at, but they're the ones that are paying the money, of course. So they're going to be the ones asking, how long does it take to get results?
Yeah, so we have some clients that there's two components that we look at, and one of them is a value-based pricing as well. So we have clients that can get results in a couple of months, quite significant. We've had a client recently that's slightly different. They're in drainage. They've had 306% increase in profit in just over 2 months. We have another one. It's been about 9 months now. And they're at about 500% increase. So I would say typically to get it really implemented and running well is around the 9-month period for a medium-sized business, a little bit less for a smaller and a little bit more for a larger.
That's fantastic. I think that's really informative for them because that's always the question in the back of people's minds. Last but not least, mate, to let you off the hook. You've got it up on the screen. Is there anything else that you expand on how they can get help?
So
How they can get help?
Yeah, look, just reach out to me anytime if you want some help. Come over to the ISSA piece there and book a 15-minute session, Q&A, or really just ask some questions. It's really it's not a particularly complex concept. The devil's in the detail, but I think it's a really, really valuable one. Any last questions now that Jeff has sort of warmed people up? No? Okay, great. Thank you very much.